Beloved, tonight we step into a realm where battles are won before the sun ever rises. I came to remind you that the night is not your enemy, it's your opportunity. When the world grows silent, heaven is listening more intently than ever. When darkness falls, the light inside you begins to shine brightest. There were seasons in my life when the night felt heavy, a place of wrestling, questioning, and waiting. But it was in those midnight hours that God taught me something powerful. Destiny is shaped in the quiet. Breakthrough is birthed in the dark. And transformation begins when you stop fearing the night and start commanding it. Tonight, I want you to rise in authority. I want you to speak with the boldness of one who knows who they are. You are not merely living on earth. You are legislating from heaven. Your words are decrees. Your prayers are weapons. Your voice is a key unlocking what has been locked away for too long. There comes a moment in your spiritual journey when you realize that the greatest weapon God has given you is not your intellect, not your resources, not your connections. It's your voice. Your voice carries weight in the realm of the spirit. Your voice carries identity, authority, and divine backing. When you open your mouth and speak, heaven recognizes the sound of a child of God. Hell trembles at the sound of someone who knows who they are. And the atmosphere shifts when a believer speaks from a place of revelation, not fear, not fear. For too long, and many have prayed as though they are unsure, as though they are standing outside the gates, hoping someone will let them in. But I came to tell you tonight, you don't pray as a beggar. You pray as a legislator. You don't approach God's throne as an outsider. You come as a citizen of heaven. Your identity is not weak. It is royal. Your voice is not small. It is governmental. You carry the authority of someone who has been redeemed, chosen, appointed, and empowered. I remember seasons when I prayed quietly, timidly, hoping something might shift. But then God began to deal with me, not about the words I was saying, but about the identity I was praying from. He said, you are speaking as though you are unsure of your position. Speak as though you know you are seated in heavenly places. Speak as one who has been given the keys to the kingdom. Speak as one who knows the power that has been entrusted to them. And something ignited in me. My prayers changed. My posture changed. My voice changed. I realized that heaven does not respond to fear. It responds to faith. When you understand your identity, your entire prayer life transforms. You no longer whisper in hope. You decree in certainty. You no longer react to what the enemy is doing. You announce what God has already declared. You stop asking for permission to be victorious and begin walking in the victory that is already yours. Your voice becomes a spiritual command center, issuing instructions, setting boundaries, calling forth what is unseen into the realm of the seen. The enemy's greatest strategy is to silence you, because he knows if he can silence you, he can control your atmosphere. He can influence your thoughts. He can invade your peace. But the moment you open your mouth with confidence, the moment you say, I know who I am, the moment you release a sound rooted in identity, every demonic assignment begins to unravel. Heaven moves into position. Angels respond to your decree. Darkness has to retreat. And let me tell you something else. Your voice carries a frequency heaven recognizes and hell respects. When you declare, I am a child of God, the spirit realm takes notice. When you speak healing, restoration, protection, and breakthrough, heaven aligns itself with your words because your identity gives you access. God has already authorized you. He has already empowered you. He has already placed his spirit inside you so you can speak as one who represents him. So tonight, I want you to pray like someone who knows they are backed by the full weight of heaven. Pray like someone who understands they are not alone. Pray like someone who has been given authority to bind, loose, declare, shift, and command. Let your voice rise not from fear, but from identity, not from insecurity, but from revelation, not from weakness, but from divine empowerment. There are invisible chains that follow families for generations, patterns that repeat themselves so consistently that they begin to feel normal, cycles that masquerade as personality traits, as just the way things are, when in reality they are spiritual limitations designed to keep you from stepping into your full potential. And until someone rises with revelation and authority, those cycles continue unchecked, unchallenged, unbroken. But tonight, you are that someone. Tonight, heaven is looking for a voice bold enough, awake enough, fierce enough to say, "This stops with me." For some of you, you have battled the same financial stagnation your parents battled, the same emotional wounds your mother carried, the same fear your father wrestled with. For others, it's a cycle of starting strong but never finishing, dreaming big but never manifesting, believing deeply but always getting stuck right before the breakthrough. These cycles may be invisible, but they are not invincible. What has lingered for years can be uprooted in a moment when you understand your authority. When I look back on my own journey, I can see patterns that tried to repeat themselves, patterns of delay, patterns of warfare, patterns that whispered, "You'll get close, but never all the way there." But God taught me that prayer is not just communication, it is confrontation. When you pray with revelation, you confront everything that has been holding your life hostage. You confront the trauma you inherited but did not choose. You confront the spiritual agreements that were made before you were even born. You confront the limiting beliefs that were planted in your mind by experiences you didn't fully understand at the time. Prayer gives you the power to step into the timeline of your family and rewrite the narrative. Some of the issues you are dealing with are not simply emotional, they are spiritual. Some of the resistance you face is not random, it is patterned. Some of the setbacks you keep encountering are echoes of something deeper, something older, something that has been waiting for someone like you to rise up and break it. And the moment you begin to pray with clarity, with authority, with spiritual insight, those patterns lose their grip. That generational rope begins to fray. That cycle begins to erode under the force of your decree. There is power in saying, "I refuse to repeat what I came out of." There is power in declaring, "My children will not inherit what tried to break me." There is power in stepping into the night and announcing, "Every cycle that has followed me ends tonight." These are not just words, they are spiritual hammer blows. They dismantle altars erected in ignorance. They disrupt patterns reinforced through repetition. They burn the bridges that once connected you to old limitations. I want you to understand, nothing changes in the natural until something shifts in the spiritual. You don't break cycles by hoping. You don't escape patterns by wishing. You break them by engaging the spirit realm with intentionality. You break them by calling them out. You break them by refusing to bow to the fear that kept previous generations silent. You break them by speaking what others were too afraid to declare. And tonight, God is empowering you to do what no one before you had the strength to do. He is giving you insight into what has been sabotaging you. He is giving you the courage to confront what has been hiding in the shadows of your life. He is giving you the words to dismantle every stronghold that has held your family captive. You are not just praying for yourself. You are praying for your bloodline. You are praying for your future. You are praying for the next generation. You are praying as a warrior who knows that cycles break when someone refuses to bow. And hear this carefully: what broke others will not break you. What stopped others will not stop you. What ran through your family ends now because you are standing in the gap. You are taking your place. You are breaking the pattern, rewriting the story, and resetting the spiritual atmosphere for everything connected to your name. There is a realm beyond what you can see, an invisible infrastructure where heaven is constantly moving, aligning, positioning, and orchestrating the details of your life. And when you pray at night, something extraordinary happens. You activate divine alignment. You awaken angelic movements. You engage the supernatural machinery that heaven designed to support your destiny. Your words become instructions in the spirit. Your prayers become coordinates that direct heavenly forces. Your declarations become the blueprint God uses to build your next season. Too often we imagine prayer as something small, something personal, something quiet, something internal. But in reality, prayer is the most powerful system of communication between the natural and the supernatural. When you open your mouth, you're not just speaking into your room, you're speaking into realms. You're not just whispering into the air, you're sending forth divine commands that angels heed, that darkness fears, and that heaven honors. And every time you pray at night, heaven takes your words and begins constructing tomorrow. I remember times when I didn't understand why things seemed to fall into place without explanation. Opportunities opened unexpectedly. People were moved into my life at precisely the right moment. Doors I didn't even knock on opened before I arrived. And do you know what God revealed to me? These were not accidents. These were answers. These were the results of prayers I prayed when it seemed nothing was happening. These were the manifestations of seeds I planted in those quiet nighttime hours when my spirit was more awake than my body. Heaven had been working even when I was asleep. Angels had been dispatched while I rested. God had been arranging what my eyes had not yet seen. When you pray at night, you invite God to step into your next day before you ever get there. You give him permission to reorder what needs to shift, to remove what has expired, to establish what must come forth, and to synchronize your steps with his divine timing. Prayer is not simply asking, it's aligning. And alignment is more powerful than effort. One moment of divine alignment can accomplish what 10 years of striving never could. There are angels assigned to your life, messengers, protectors, warriors waiting for your instruction. Heaven has resources with your name on them, waiting for your request. There are opportunities, blessings, connections, ideas, and breakthroughs hovering in the spirit, waiting for you to activate them through prayer. When you speak at night, you release permission for heaven to act. You release authorization for God's will to advance. You release divine assistance into the battlefield of your destiny. And hear me clearly, God is not the only one active in the night. There are forces that try to use the night to plant fear, confusion, delay, and distraction. But when you rise and begin to pray, you push back what was sent against you. You reverse what was intended to derail you. You cancel what was being plotted in darkness. You dismantle what the enemy hoped would take root before sunrise. Your prayer becomes a shield, a wall, a boundary, a fortress that the enemy cannot penetrate as you command your night. You are not just asking for protection. You are releasing favor to go before you. You are releasing angels to stand guard at your door. You are releasing clarity to light your path. You are releasing wisdom to guide your decisions. You are releasing strength into your spirit. You are releasing peace into your home. You are releasing breakthrough into your timeline. And everything in the spirit realm begins to shift to accommodate the words you speak. Imagine waking up and the path is already cleared. The blessing is already positioned. The distraction has already been removed. The danger has already been rerouted. The opportunity has already been assigned. This is what happens when you pray at night. You don't wake up hoping. You wake up prepared. You don't wake up guessing. You wake up guided. You don't wake up fighting. You wake up favored. Heaven is listening. Angels are waiting. The atmosphere is responding. When you pray tonight, know that you are releasing an army, commanding alignment, summoning divine order, and setting in motion events that will shape your tomorrow. You are not just praying, you are establishing your destiny. There is a different kind of strength that rises in you when you have commanded your night, a different kind of confidence, a different kind of clarity. When you have stood in the quiet hours and declared the word of God over your life, Your spirit wakes up before your body does. Something inside you stands to attention. Something within you remembers that victory was already settled while you slept. You don't rise in the morning trying to figure out what your day will bring. Your day has already been spoken for. When a new day breaks, you step into it like someone who knows the ground beneath them has been prayed over. You step into it knowing that divine order has already been set. You step into it carrying the peace you sealed in the night, the strength you summoned in prayer, and the wisdom that was whispered into your spirit while the world slept. You walk into the new day not hoping that things will work out. You walk into the new day knowing that heaven has gone before you. And this is the beauty of commanding your night. You begin to live life from a place of spiritual advantage. You stop reacting to situations that used to destabilize you. You stop being blindsided by things that once threw you off course. You stop waking up overwhelmed, confused, or anxious. Instead, you wake up anchored, you wake up focused, you wake up aligned with heaven's agenda. Every step you take feels intentional, every decision feels guided, every moment feels ordered by God. There comes a point when you begin to see the evidence of what you prayed for. You begin to notice the conversation that went differently because you prayed, the opportunity that opened because you decreed alignment, the danger that passed by unnoticed because angels were stationed around you, the strength that carried you through because you fortified your spirit the night before. You begin to recognize that nothing in your day is random. Everything has been touched by heaven. When you command your night, you cultivate the habit of walking into each day with your spirit fully awake. You move from surviving to stewarding, from guessing to discerning, from drifting to directing. You stop living passively and begin living prophetically, anticipating rather than reacting, declaring rather than worrying, leading rather than following whatever life throws at you. And as you step into the next day, something powerful begins to happen inside you. You start to trust that you are not alone. You start to recognize God's fingerprints on the smallest moments, those subtle shifts, those unexpected conversations, those gentle nudges in your spirit. You start to realize that your life is being shaped from a higher place, and you are simply walking out what heaven has already established. This is the confidence that rises when you command your night. The day no longer intimidates you. The unknown no longer frightens you. The unexpected no longer throws you into panic. You walk with authority. You speak with assurance. You move with purpose because you understand that the morning is not where your battle begins. The morning is where your victory manifests. And with every sunrise, you step into the fullness of what was settled while the world was sleeping. You step into strength that doesn't waver, peace that doesn't break, and clarity that doesn't dissolve under pressure. You step into your day like someone who knows that heaven has paved the way ahead of you, and all you need to do is walk in the divine momentum you set in motion through prayer. There comes a moment in your spiritual walk when you no longer pray just to feel better. You pray to become better. You pray because you understand that every word you release is shaping something in the unseen. You pray because you recognize that the supernatural realm responds to your voice. And when you truly grasp this, prayer stops being a ritual and becomes a divine strategy, a spiritual technology that shifts atmospheres, alters timelines, and positions you to walk into the fullness of God's intention for your life. You begin to understand that prayer is not simply communication with God, it is collaboration with heaven. You are not speaking into the air. You are partnering with the architect of destiny. You are entering the command center of your future. You are participating in the shaping of what will unfold in your life, in your home, in your relationships, in your purpose. And suddenly, prayer becomes the most powerful thing you can do, not because it changes God, but because it changes you. It transforms your posture, your mindset, your attitude, your expectation. There were seasons when I prayed just enough to survive, just enough to keep my head above water, just enough to push back discouragement. But then the Spirit of God began to deal with me. He said, "You're praying from desperation, not revelation. You're praying from emotion, not authority. You're praying from fear, not dominion." And I had to shift. I had to learn to pray not from my feelings, but from my position in Christ, not from exhaustion, but from empowerment, not from anxiety, but from alignment. And the moment I did, everything in my life began to transform. You realize that prayer is the place where cycles break, where destinies awaken, where clarity is born, where heavy burdens fall off your shoulders. Prayer is where your spirit gets recalibrated, where your thoughts align with God's thoughts, where your desires synchronize with His will, where your perspective is lifted above the noise of the world. You begin to hear differently. You begin to see differently. You begin to move differently. And the more you pray, the more you begin to sense that something inside you is rising. Your boldness increases. Your discernment sharpens. Your inner resilience strengthens. You become spiritually aware, not paranoid, but discerning, not fearful, but vigilant, not defensive, but offensive. Prayer shifts you from reacting to life to directing life. It positions you to lead from the inside out rather than being pulled by external pressures. There is a maturity that develops in you when prayer becomes your lifestyle. You stop waiting for someone else to pray you through. You stop depending on external motivation. You stop leaning on people to validate you or events to inspire you. Instead, you tap into the river within you. You become your own intercessor. You become your own encourager. You begin to stir yourself, strengthen yourself, and fortify yourself in the Lord. And something powerful begins to happen. Your days no longer control you. You control your days. Your emotions no longer dictate your actions. You govern your emotions through the power of the Spirit. Situations that used to overwhelm, you now submit to the authority you carry. You start walking in spiritual confidence, not arrogance, but divine assurance that God is with you, in you, and working through you. Prayer makes you aware of the fact that you are not living life alone. You are moving with divine assistance, divine intelligence, divine protection. You start noticing the subtle ways God guides your steps, the doors that suddenly open, the conversations that shift your direction, the ideas that drop into your spirit at just the right moment. Prayer trains you to recognize His fingerprints in everything. Prayer makes you sensitive to His voice, receptive to His leading, and responsive to His instruction. And as you continue in this place of prayer, you become a carrier of atmosphere. Wherever you go, peace follows, strength follows, wisdom follows. You become someone who doesn't just enter a room, you shift the room. You don't just face challenges, you transform challenges. You don't just withstand storms, you command storms. Because prayer has built something inside you that nothing in this world can dismantle. This is the power of a life anchored in prayer. It turns ordinary people into spiritual giants. It transforms timid souls into bold warriors. It elevates believers from surviving to thriving, from fearing to ruling, from existing to dominating. And as you pray, you begin to embody the truth of who you are, chosen, empowered, equipped, and unstoppable in the Spirit. There is a point in your journey when you stop looking at prayer as something you do and begin to see it as something you carry. It becomes woven into the rhythm of your spirit, stitched into the fabric of your identity. You no longer wait until trouble hits to call on God. You walk with Him, talk with Him, commune with Him throughout the day. You become aware that the presence of God is not a place you visit. It is a place you live. And when you live in that place, everything about you changes. There is a sensitivity that grows in your spirit, a holy awareness, a divine alertness. You begin to sense when something is shifting in the atmosphere, when there is a tug on your spirit, when God is whispering directions that your natural ears could never hear. You start perceiving things before they manifest feeling the weight of decisions before you make them, recognizing the difference between distractions and destiny. Prayer sharpens your discernment until you become spiritually calibrated, able to detect the movements of heaven with the precision of a warrior. Suddenly, you are no longer swayed by emotions or circumstances. You can stand in the middle of chaos and remain unmoved because your spirit has been anchored in the presence of God. You stop allowing external noise to dictate internal peace. You stop allowing the opinions of others to influence your direction. You stop letting fear have a seat at your table. You become rooted, deeply rooted in the awareness that God is guiding your steps, guarding your path, and governing every detail of your life. And as this awareness deepens, your reactions begin to shift. The things that used to drain you no longer shake you. The people who used to distract you no longer pull you off course. The darkness that once intimidated you now retreats at the sound of your voice. You recognize that you carry something greater than the storms around you. You carry the authority of someone who has been in the presence of the King. Your prayers begin to flow not from anxiety, but from revelation, not from desperation, but from dominion. You stop pleading and start decreeing. You stop hoping and start commanding. You stop praying like a victim and begin praying like a victor who already knows the outcome. Prayer becomes the language of your identity, the expression of your authority, the signature of your spiritual maturity. And you start to notice that God is leading you with unusual clarity. Ideas begin to surface at the exact moment you need them. Answers appear before the question fully forms. Solutions unfold without effort. People cross your path at divine appointments. You find yourself in the right place at the right time, saying the right words with the right timing. This is what happens when prayer becomes your atmosphere. You begin living under divine orchestration. The more your spirit stays connected, the more you begin walking with an inner calm that confuses those who don't understand the source of your strength. You move through challenges with grace. You navigate uncertainty with confidence. You face transitions with expectation instead of fear. Your spirit begins to lead your life instead of your emotions. Your soul becomes settled even when your circumstances are not. And then something even deeper happens. Your presence begins to shift environments. You walk into a room and peace arrives. You enter a conversation and wisdom emerges. You step into a situation and clarity displaces confusion. You become a carrier of God's atmosphere. People begin to sense something different about you, not because you announce it, but because you embody it. You walk with a quiet authority, a holy confidence, a spiritual depth that cannot be imitated or fabricated. This is what happens when prayer is not just an act, but a lifestyle. You become a vessel that heaven trusts, a warrior who is spiritually aware, a believer who moves with divine insight. You begin to live beyond the surface, guided by the whispers of the Spirit, sustained by the presence of God, and empowered by a strength that does not fade when life tests you. And all of this flows from a heart trained in prayer, a spirit awakened in the night, and a life surrendered to the voice of God. There comes a moment in the night when the silence feels heavier, when the air seems still, and when your mind begins to whisper possibilities about tomorrow. It is in that sacred stillness that God often deposits divine strategies, ideas that didn't exist before you entered his presence. You begin to sense clarity forming, direction unfolding, and answers rising to the surface like light breaking across the horizon. And suddenly you realize the night is not just a place to rest, it is a place to receive. It is the womb of revelation, the chamber where God begins to sketch the blueprint of your next dimension. And if you lean in, if you remain present, surrendered, and attentive, you will start to recognize the subtle nudges of the Holy Spirit guiding you toward decisions you've been struggling with. You'll find the courage to release what no longer serves you and the boldness to embrace what has been waiting for you. In that holy hour, God begins to rearrange your inner landscape. He strips away confusion and replaces it with conviction. He removes fear and sets your faith ablaze. You begin to see that you are not stepping into the next season empty-handed. You are stepping in equipped, empowered, and divinely instructed. Things you once doubted suddenly appear possible. Ideas you thought were too big begin to feel attainable. You sense God expanding your capacity, enlarging your vision, and stretching your expectation. And as His presence hovers over you, you realize that the breakthroughs you've been praying for are not far away. They are already taking shape, already coming into alignment, already being released on your behalf. This is where transformation begins, when your spirit becomes fully aware that God is not just visiting your night, He is shaping your destiny in it. He is crafting pathways you haven't walked yet, opening doors you haven't knocked on yet, and positioning people you haven't met yet. And the more you yield to Him, the more you begin to understand that nothing happening in your life is random. Everything is preparation. Everything is strategic. Everything is part of a divine orchestration designed to usher you into the fullness of who you were created to be. And as this awareness settles into your soul, you enter a deeper peace, a stronger faith, and a renewed confidence, not in yourself alone, but in the God who goes before you, who stands behind you, and who surrounds you in every moment. Especially in the quiet hours of the night, there comes a point in the night when you realize that you are not just praying empty words into the darkness. You are legislating your destiny, issuing spiritual decrees, and establishing divine order over every area of your life. In that moment, you begin to understand that your voice carries weight in the realm of the spirit. When you speak, heaven responds, angels are dispatched, and the atmosphere shifts in your favor. You become aware that prayer isn't passive, it's authoritative. It is the instrument God placed in your hands so you can shape outcomes instead of simply enduring them. As you open your mouth and declare God's promises, something powerful begins to happen inside you. Fear loses its grip, anxiety dissolves. The heaviness that tried to settle in your spirit begins to lift because the presence of God is now filling every place where uncertainty once tried to live. You start to feel a holy boldness rising, strength that reminds you that you were never created to cower, shrink, or retreat. You were created to stand tall in the power of God, to speak with conviction, and to command the night with authority and precision. And when you command your night, you are not just praying for protection. You are praying for positioning. You are not just declaring survival. You are declaring advancement. You are aligning your day before it even arrives, telling every crooked place to straighten, every closed door to unlock, and every hidden blessing to be revealed. You begin to sense the shift inside you first, the shift in your mindset, in your courage, in your faith. And then you begin to sense the shift around you. Everything begins to respond to the power of your declaration. You feel God strengthening your inner man, fortifying your spirit, and enlarging your capacity to believe for greater. You realize that you are not limited by what happened today or what didn't happen yesterday. You are stepping into a realm where God is resetting timelines, accelerating promises, and redeeming everything the enemy tried to steal. And as you continue to speak, you recognize that the authority God has given you is not timid, it is fierce, it is focused, and it is effective. In that sacred exchange between your voice and God's promise, something ignites, your spirit wakes up, your vision sharpens, your hope expands. You feel faith rising like a fire within you, fierce enough to burn down every lie and bright enough to illuminate the path ahead. And in that holy fire, you understand that you are not praying as a victim. You are praying as a victor, as someone chosen, empowered, and positioned by God to walk in breakthrough and overflow. There comes a moment after you have prayed, declared, and commanded your night when you begin to feel a supernatural assurance settling over your spirit. an inner knowing that God has already gone ahead of you. It is a quiet but undeniable confidence, a divine certainty that what you have spoken in faith is already being established in the unseen realm. You may not see the manifestation yet, but you can feel the shift. You can sense the movement. You can discern that something is turning in your favor. It is in this sacred moment that God begins to anchor you, grounding you in his peace, stabilizing your emotions and strengthening your resolve. You suddenly recognize that you don't have to strive, stress, or agonize over what comes next. You don't have to carry the weight of tomorrow or rehearse the fears of what might go wrong. The God who keeps the universe in order is keeping your life in order. The God who hung the stars in the heavens is hanging promises over your future. The God who neither sleeps nor slumbers is watching over you even when you close your eyes. You begin to breathe differently, slower, deeper, calmer, as though your very breath has aligned with heaven. You sense God whispering reassurance into the deepest parts of your being. Rest. I've got it. I've got you. Nothing is out of my control. And suddenly, the things that once overwhelmed you no longer intimidate you. The battles that seemed impossible no longer feel threatening. The deadlines, the decisions, the uncertainties, they all shrink in the presence of a God who holds eternity in his hands. And as this peace flows through you, you start to realize that the night is not a place of vulnerability. It is a place of victory. It is where God renews your strength, restores your clarity, and revitalizes your spirit. It is where he pours fresh oil over your life, refreshing your faith and preparing you for the breakthroughs that are already on their way. This peace is not ordinary. It is supernatural. It silences the noise, quiets the chaos, and dismantles every anxious thought trying to rise up against the knowledge of God. In this stillness, you begin to feel God resetting you, resetting your mind, resetting your emotions, resetting your expectations. He is aligning you with his rhythm, his will, his timeline, and you know deep within that when the morning comes, you will not wake up the same. You will rise with clarity, with strength, with divine strategy, because God himself has ministered to you in the night, sealing every prayer, reinforcing every declaration, and preparing every blessing with your name written on it.